Hi guys, so for today's video, my husband Sean will be joining us and we're playing a little game of Bookish Would You Rather. So over on my Instagram stories, I had a bunch of random Would You Rather questions, which I will read off to all of you. And I'm going to see what Sean would rather for these options, and then for myself as well, let you know. But I want to read off the percentages of one or the other to all of you. And then
of the responses?
Of the
people?
responses, yeah. And
okay.
I want to know, too, in the comments for each of these, which you would rather. Some of them I was really surprised by, and then some of them I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. The first one. Okay, Sean.
Okay.
Would you rather meet your favorite author only to have them be super rude to you? So that's option 1. Or 2, meet your favorite author and they're super nice, but you do something really embarrassing in front of them.
That's actually kind of hard. I don't remember what I said. I think I said...
He answered these, but he doesn't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember. I think I said, meet my favorite author and he's rude to me.
You would rather that?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably go home and be, like, a little sad, but I think I'd rather be a little sad than, like, really embarrassed. So.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So what do you think the majority of people said?
I think people probably would want their heroes to be nice to them, so I would think probably embarrass themselves.
Now, about what percentage do you think?
I'll go 60-40.
It was 93% would rather be embarrassed.
Wow.
And 7% would rather they were rude. I was really surprised by that. I guess a lot of us have no shame, and I think it's also just, it's hard for people as much as they try to separate art from artists. I think it's difficult for people to do so. And I think that if you embarrass yourself, that doesn't affect how you're going to see the book. But if it turns out the author is really rude, then you're going to feel some kind of way about it. And it might affect how you feel about their work after that. So I was surprised at the percentage of you that would rather be embarrassed. But I think I would rather be embarrassed, because then it's a funny story later. It's embarrassing in the moment, but you can be like, oh my gosh, when I met so-and-so, just, insert author I never shut up about. I met this person and I did the most embarrassing thing, and then it's a funny story.
I think for me, like, I think I get over things pretty quick, so I think I could be like, that guy sucks, and then I would move on. Like, I'm not sure I would.
Yeah, you separate art from artists a lot.
That's true.
So.
That's true.
Yeah. I think the funny story aspect of it would make me okay with the embarrassment.
A lot of my favorite authors aren't alive. So.
There's not even an option.
Yeah.
All right. So would you rather, next one. That was a weird way to put it. I'm going to redo that. The next would you rather. Option 1 is, would you rather have a high budget adaptation of your favorite book, but the casting isn't very good? Or option 2, where you have a terrible budget, but the casting is great.
I think terrible budget, great casting, although I'm pretty guilty of complaining about bad special effects.
Insert you talking about
yeah,
Witcher.
Exactly. So I think I'd rather, if, like, the acting is great, like, I mean, I'll take it.
You can always say the adaptation is a little low budget, but oh my gosh, is the acting amazing? Whereas I think if there's a ton of special effects and they look really good, but the acting isn't very good, that's, I think, harder to get over.
Yeah, I think good acting can like raise something to another level.
So I think a good example is when Game of Thrones started. I know a lot of us don't like how it ended, but when it started, the special effects were not fantastic. So people did not tune in to Game of Thrones for the amazing effects. They tuned in because of the story and the acting. So I would agree. I would rather have good actors. Good actors can make or break something, I think. So what do you think the percentage was?
I think a lot of people probably agreed with that. I'll say 90-10.
So 74% agreed.
Oh, man.
They would rather have good casting.
No good at guessing percentages.
26% of you who participated in this would rather there be a really good budget. And you know what? Here's what I'll add. The Marvel movies are the Marvel movies because of the budgets, I think. Not that the acting is bad, but I just feel like it's all of the special effects and all of the, basically the special effects and the costume and all of the money that's poured into those shows. So not to say that the casting isn't good, but I don't know how many people go to watch the Marvel movies for the marvelous acting.
Aha, marvelous.
The next one, would you rather only get to read 2 to 4 star books for 1 year, so everything you read ends up being between 2 and 4 stars, or read only 1 and 5 star books for a year, and you can't DNF for either option, which means you have to push through the ones you hate. So this one, for me, is tricky because in my head, I'm like, ugh, I don't want to read a bunch of 1 stars, though. But at the same time, 2 star isn't that much better than 1 star. And, like, if a lot of the books I'm reading I absolutely love, that's pretty cool, too.
Yeah, I think that was the thing for me. Like, if you get a bunch of, like, your favorite books ever, if that comes out of it, I think that's worth it. So I picked 5 star and 1 star.
I think for myself, already, it's rare for me to find an absolute new favorite. So if I could, even if I have to push through a bunch of books I don't like to get to those, for a whole year I'm just stacking up new favorites, I think that it is worth it for me. Yeah. So I think I would go option 2. So this one was the closest we've had yet. 55% would rather read 2 to 4 star. And then 45. Oh, I didn't give you a chance to really give the percentages. But
we can edit that out, and then I can be like, I bet 55% and 45%. And then you're like, whoa.
Okay, ready? Edit. What do you think the percentage is?
I bet it was 55% wanted 2 to 4 star, and 45% wanted 1 and 5 star.
You're right.
Whoa.
Wow. You're such losers. Next one. Would you rather? Option 1. Read a good book, but it has way too many cliches. Or read an okay book, but it's really unique and does cool things with tropes.
Man, I don't even remember what I thought of that one. I think I'd rather have a good book or a better book. I guess that's what was a great book or a good book.
A good book, but it's filled with cliches.
Yeah.
Or an okay book, which doesn't mean it's terrible.
I would rather have the okay book, I think.
The okay book, but
filled with cliches, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you would rather option 1?
Yes. Sorry, I probably said the word. I would want the good book with cliches over the book.
I think I would too. I think I would be able to appreciate the book that does something unique. And I think I would be able to understand why other people really like it. And if it was getting low ratings, I would think it deserved higher ratings purely because they took a chance and it's different. And so enjoyment levels are probably lower just because simply it's different. But I do read for enjoyment for the most part, so I would want to enjoy what I'm reading. So I think the first one depends on the tropes. That's the other thing, too, is that if the tropes are really obnoxious, but then that would make it less, it wouldn't be a good book then.
I think so much of what I like comes down to writing style and prose. I'm not even sure if it could be super cliched, but if it's written in a way I like, I'll probably just be like, oh, that's great, you know. I'm pretty easygoing that way.
So, what do you think the percentages were? I almost read
this one. I don't know. I'm going to say people don't want cliches. I'll say 65 would rather have an okay original book, and then 35.
This one was very close. 47% voted for option 1, which is the one we picked. So 53 option 2.
Wow.
So more of you, not by a lot, but more of you would rather it be unique, but just not as good for you. So I think that was. I was really curious to see how that one would go.
I've got a lot of unique books for people to read.
Mason and Dixon.
Mason and Dixon.
Next one. Would you rather 1 have a super boring main character but a fantastic love interest, or have a fantastic main character but a super boring love interest?
Yeah, I don't know if that's really something I care too much about, so I'd rather have a great main character.
Okay, what do you think the percentage is?
I'll say overwhelmingly want a great main character. I'll say 85.
Would want a fantastic. Okay, so it's 64% would want a great main character, 36 would want a great love interest.
Interesting.
I think might be in the unpopular one here. No, I think I am because I'm literally going for the one that has less. So the reason I would rather the love interest be interesting is because in my head, if it's the MC, sometimes MCs are written in a way where if I don't know, I'm just imagining like the love interest, if that character, if I'm with them all the time, I got to understand why they like the love interest. Like if they're the main character, even if it's third person, but I'm only with that main character and they like super bland, boring, vanilla bread guy, I'm just like, or girl, why do you like this person? They're so boring and it won't make sense to me. And the opposite is true as well. I mean, if the love interest is great, but they're into the main character, I won't know why, but in my head I can be like, it's because we're not seeing their thoughts, so I don't know why they like them. I can just kind of decide it's because I'm not in their head, I can't see what they're thinking. But
it's a pretty well reasoned response.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, mine is just like,
I don't know. Yeah. Well, I think normally I would say I'd rather have a great main character because you're spending time with them so much, but yeah, I don't know. If I'm with them and they're really into somebody and there's nothing to that somebody, I'm going to need them to rationalize it. And if it's a super boring character, I'm not going to get it. So that's kind of my thoughts. I also think there is something to the MC who's Twilight, who's a little bland, so you can self-insert, and then you can imagine being them, and then like the amazing character is in love with you. I guess that's part of it too.
Never experienced that.
Next one. Would you rather read an okay book with a great ending or read a great book with a disappointing ending?
So let me 100% say I'd rather read an okay book with a good ending that sticks the landing. I cannot tell you how many times, and by that I mean twice,
so you can tell them.
Stephen King has disappointed me. And he'll write a pretty darn interesting novel, and then he's like, I don't know how to end this because I don't really think about it. And then it's really disappointing. So, yeah, it actually bothers me. So I'm pretty sure of this one.
I've said myself before as well, I get more annoyed about a good book having a not great ending than I do if the whole book was just okay for me.
Right, exactly. If the whole thing's okay, it's like, okay, it's okay.
On top of that, if the whole thing's okay, but it's a great ending, I'll be like, okay, all right.
And that kind of motivates you. If there's another one, you want to read the next one.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. So a lot of you agreed. 79% of you would rather read an okay book with a great ending. So then, of course, 21% for that one. I'm surprised that there was still over 20% voting the other way. So it depends on the length of the book, too. Because if it's okay for 700 pages and it's not until that last little chunk, that's a lot to get through.
You know, I will say, backing up my strong stance a little bit, I read Infinite Jest, and that ending is... people have opinions on that ending. It kind of just like... he stops writing. That's kind of how it ends. I was pretty disappointed, but on the other side, the other like 900 pages I loved. So it's like, I think
it depends on if the book is kind of in need of a satisfying ending.
Yeah, I don't know how he would have ended that book. So, I mean, it kind of just seemed like he was like, it's done now.
If it's very thematic, or if the whole intention is supposed to say, yeah, but like nothing ever really changes, or something, like, then you're not... Right. First law. You're not really going to get a super satisfying ending, but you'll enjoy it along the way. But more often than not, if you don't write a great ending, I'm going to be frustrated with you.
I think my thing with Stephen King is that in his books, he creates plots that are interesting that I don't necessarily need explained, but he wants to give a reason and explain them, and I'm never that satisfied with his explanations, so... That's a long kind of probably digression on that one. But.
I think it's interesting. Last one. And this is the one that I think you all surprised me on the most. So, option 1, would you rather have one major character death spoiled for you, or would you rather have to read a terrible use of the resurrection trope?
So I think I would rather have the resurrection trope, because I don't like spoilers. So if you spoil, like, and I think character deaths like are some of the most impactful moments. So if you spoil that for me, I'm going to be irritated. So yeah.
So I would initially have agreed, but I've thought a lot about it. So initially I would say I think that as well. I would be so angry if a character death, because your whole experience with the book is going to change. But that doesn't change the quality of the book. You can go back and reread it. And because obviously when you reread it, you would have already known there's a character death. So the reread value is still good. Doesn't mean the book is good, though. So that's another factor that, we're not talking about necessarily. But I guess if I'm really, really liking a book and you spoil a character death for me, the book can still be fantastic. I can still really like it. But a terrible use of the resurrection trope will probably annoy me a lot. And
you probably won't reread it.
I might, it might ruin the book for me. So I'm torn. And the luxury, of course, is that I can debate different things here, and you all couldn't. You just could only.
That's a well thought out response for that too.
Oh, thank you. But your votes. So,
do I have to guess?
Yes, thank you.
I'll go 90-10.
It's not quite that strong.
Okay.
I thought a lot of you cared about spoilers more, so it is in favor of you would rather read, or you would rather have a spoiler than the resurrection trope. So 68% of you, almost 70, would rather be spoiled, and then of course 32%. And I was surprised by that because I think I have a different view on this as far as the reception, because sometimes even just describing the plot of a book, people will get mad because they're like, you basically spoiled the whole book for me. And I'm just like, and people get really mad. So I think I was expecting more people to feel that way and to be really upset. But I think this just shows how much we all really hate a bad resurrection trope. Anyway, this was super, super fun. And I would love to do this in the future and ask these tough questions. Tough but fun, so you don't have to feel bad morally after. Because I feel like Would You Rather sometimes is really dark or really gross. And this was just fun, like embarrass yourself, or they're kind of rude to you. So anyway, I had so much fun. Thank you everybody who participated. Thanks to my husband for joining us today. I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Let me know if you would like me to do this again in the future, and we'll see you all later. Bye.